While Marvel's Black Widow gets our hero the solo story that she deserved years ago, one of the more compelling parts of the film are all the new characters we get to meet, including David Harbour's Red Guardian.
Still fits.
But who is the mystery guy, and which side is he actually on? Time to head to the pages of Marvel Comics for some surprising reveals, connections to Captain America, and another failed love interest for poor Natasha. Before the May release date arrives, learn everything you need to know about the Red Guardian. Taking place during the events between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, the Marvel timeline is about to get even more complicated, with Natasha Romanoff's side quest back to her home in Russia. Along the way, she encounters Alexi Shostakov, whose alter ego is the Red Guardian. In simple terms, the Red Guardian is pretty much the Russian version of Captain America, if the Crimson Red Star suit didn't give things away already. Now, it's easy to get Red Guardian confused with other Marvel characters, especially considering there's been 7 different versions of the character over the years. There's Dr. Tania Belinsky, the female Red Guardian who also doubles as a brain surgeon. There's Josef Petkus, who served as the Red Guardian while part of the Supreme Soviets. The one hero you shouldn't mix him up with, the Guardian. Also donning a red suit but without the red in his name, Marvel's Guardian is the Canadian counterpart to Captain America, who is probably a little more kind and gentle than the actual Red Guardian. Publishing-wise, Alexi Shostakov was technically the first, but through some flashbacks and retcons, the first timeline-based Red Guardian was Aleksey Lebedev. The character was shown in 1945 flashbacks from a Namor comic published in 1991. But the focus here is on the single Red Guardian, Alexi, the only Red Guardian that we'll see in the movie. We can't imagine the end of Black Widow turning into a Shazam ripoff where all of these Red Guardians unite to save the day, so what's Alexi's story? How do we separate the hero and the man? Well, like any good tale, it includes love, heartbreak, and secret underground training after the KGB decides to fake his demise. First, the love. Long before Black Widow was flipping her way through alien battles in the streets of New York City, she was dancing her way on the ballet stage in the Soviet Union. A romance began between Alexi and Natasha, and the couple became happily married. But we all know the happily didn't last too long. Does it ever in the comics? Turns out, Alexi was such an incredible hero of the Soviet Union that the KGB decided to turn him into a special operative. How special? Well, he would have to leave all of his loved ones behind, fake his demise, and live a secret life as the Red Guardian. Not the best honeymoon for the couple. The Red Guardian was created as an answer to Captain America, but there was no serum involved. The training Alexi went through over the years has turned him into an extremely powerful hero, but one with no actual powers. His brute strength and endurance kept him on the battlefield, and a pretty strong red shield helped a lot as well. The shield may look similar to Cap's, but his original version was not made with vibranium. Only in recent years have we seen a newer version of the Red Guardian character with an updated shield with the powerful Wakandan material. So while Alexi carried off on his own secret missions, Natasha used her heartbreak and widow status to become a literal Black Widow. She trained to become a hero just like her husband, and eventually defected to the United States. When the Red Guardian showed up to challenge Captain America and the other Avengers, Natasha had no idea it was her husband under the mask, until the big reveal. He was a very different man at this point. While he was still in love with Natasha, he was a brutal and ruthless machine. When the Soviets teamed up with the Red Chinese, the two powers unleashed a weapon known as the Psychotron, a weapon which could cause mass hallucinations. A battle ensued, but the Red Guardian did not remain a foe to the Avengers for long. When Red Chinese member Colonel Ling attacked a fallen Captain America, Red Guardian put his bad feelings for Steve Rogers aside. Alexi actually sacrificed his life to save Captain America, and Black Widow officially became widowed with her husband's actual passing. Of course, no one has ever truly gone in the world of comics. Over the years, Red Guardian has come back in the form of a life model decoy and his own version of Ronin. Just don't expect to see anything like that in the Black Widow movie. You probably won't get a glimpse of the other Alexi Red Guardian incarnations either. The ones from other Earths, like say the Red Zombie Guardian from Earth Z or Marvel's Zombieverse. In fact, the movie version of the Red Guardian seems to be a far cry from any of the comic book versions. The first biggest difference? The timelines. The comic book version of Red Guardian focused on missions based around World War II, and that clearly doesn't fit the MCU, unless he just happened to share an iceberg with Steve Rogers for several decades. In most likelihood, the MCU version will be some bumped up Cold War espionage during the late 70s and early 80s. The timeline fits, and the Soviet Union conflict also fits nicely into the MCU timeline. The whole timeline thing also creates another major problem, the love story between Natasha and Alexi. The major age gap means that any type of love interest between the couple is likely off the table for the cinematic version of the characters. Boy, Natasha just cannot catch a break. She causes tension between Pepper and Tony Stark in Iron Man 2.
I want one.
No.
They hint at something with Hawkeye until we learn about his secret family, and then she even sparks up something with the Hulk until he ditches her for a trip through outer space. Talk about being ghosted. Well, now anyone looking for a big screen adaptation of her love with Alexi will not get what they wished. For previews, interviews, and clips, it seems as if Alexi will play a father figure type role for Natasha. This is a far cry from the comic books, but makes sense considering the actors used and how Natasha probably would have mentioned a former husband in the many MCU movies that she's appeared in. Plus, we all know the MCU has no problem changing comic book history to fit their own movie story. You cannot force comic accurate storylines into the movies, as the MCU has become its own canon source with over a decade of history already. So who will be Alexi's love interest this time around? There could be hints in one, in the form of Melina Vostokov. In the fake family that Natasha worked and lived with, it's pretty clear that Alexi and Melina played the roles of parents while Natasha and Yelena were the daughters. Footage at CCXP19 all but confirmed this, as an extended dinner scene featured the characters reflecting back on their time as a fake family. Now, the question that remains is, how much did Alexi and Melina extend their husband and wife roles? Strictly business, or was some romance involved? Another huge reveal from the CCXP19, Red Guardian has a line to Natasha about him being Captain America's adversary. Considering how the big battle in the comics pitted Red Guardian against Captain America, we have to wonder if the Black Widow movie will touch on this, or if the line of dialogue is just a fun Easter egg. We also have to question the timeline that Black Widow actually takes place in. When and where was Captain America an adversary to Red Guardian? It had to have taken place after Cap was thawed out in the Avengers movie, unless the whole film takes place during Steve Rogers' alternate timeline, the one where he went back in time, got his dance with Peggy Carter, and lived out the rest of his life. If that is the case, then we could be seeing more signs of Rogers' adventures through time using some pretty sly references and Easter eggs. Maybe a fun flashback scene of the Red Guardian battling Captain America? Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but do expect the scene to flesh out the history a little bit more. And now let's focus on the sweet big screen version of the Red Guardian costume. Just like the Incredibles, we see Alexi trying to fit back into his classic suit, but the whole scene begs the question, why hasn't he worn it in years? Well, the answer may be the whole catalyst for Natasha to return home. It seems like Alexi will be in some type of lockup, possibly held by US agents or even Russians. A Black Widow rescue mission helps save the day and gets Red Guardian released after years of being caged away. And the first thing he does? Put that suit back on. The suit is a pretty great hybrid between the comic book design and the Avengers Infinity War Captain America suit. Now for our next question. Does the suit mean that Red Guardian will be a hero? In the comics, he started off the villain and ended up redeeming himself in the end. Now we may be dealing with the opposite effect. While Black Widow will clearly have her hands full against the Taskmaster, all signs point to Red Guardian as turning on Natasha at some point in the film. Maybe years of resentment for Natasha deflecting to the US finally comes to blows? Maybe he is teaming up with the Taskmaster. Or maybe Melina is the Taskmaster and then seeks out her husband to join her side in the fight against Natasha? Just throwing some things out there to see what sticks. In fact, the whole husband and wife thing makes a lot of sense. Natasha hasn't talked to Melina and Alexi in years. While previews try to set up a feud with Yelena, the two sisters going up against their parents would be the ultimate battle, both physically and psychologically. The only way the Taskmaster actually fits into the mix is if the villain is one of them, the mysterious Melina. Of course, we could be completely wrong and the Red Guardian becomes a beloved hero, but we're gonna stick with comic book history this time around. Unless we get a Red Guardian solo movie or Disney Plus series announced, the guy clearly won't have the same moral integrity as Captain America, and we could see him easily flip-flop to the villain side. Either way, it'll be interesting to see how David Harbour takes on the character. In the comics, Red Guardian was pretty straight and narrow, a go-getter who liked to sprinkle a little romance on the side. In the MCU, Harbour looks to infuse some humor into the character, playing up his weight and old age for some laughs.
You got fat.
Just like the comics, there doesn't seem to be any set of powers for the Red Guardian, just some massive strength and the ability to take down foes with ease. Expect to see a lot of great combat and action scenes in similar ways to Captain America the Winter Soldier. Unfortunately, no matter how memorable or entertaining Harbour ends up being as Red Guardian, it feels like a one-and-done role considering Black Widow's demise in Endgame. With the flashback film, we could even see the end of the Red Guardian before the end credits roll. As we all know, Natasha has a whole lot of red on her ledger. So now, with a grasp on the history of the Red Guardian and potential transition into the MCU, you're ready to dive into Black Widow, spot all the comic book references, and enjoy what could be Scarlett Johansson's final performance as the beloved Avenger. How do you think the Red Guardian story will play out on the big screen? What version do you want to see? Should there be more Red Guardian in the MCU? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to ScreenRant for more great Marvel content.